And here in Connecticut, there is a great deal of support for Israel in West Hartford. People from all faiths are gathering now. Chief political reporter Susan Ralph is live outside in West Hartford, right by the town hall. Susan?
Kara, this is a rally for solidarity. If you look, you can see hundreds of people are gathered here outside West Hartford Town Hall. There are people from all walks of life, all faiths. They're very concerned and devastated in many ways about what they have seen over the past day. They have seen things that they never, ever want to see. And I think the latest now is about 900 deaths in Israel. Thousands of people have been injured, not to mention the families, women and children who have been kidnapped by terrorists. They're all here gathered in West Hartford because they feel it is important to show solidarity. And in many ways, they feel helpless. They want to do things to help the people of Israel, whether that is blood donations, giving to hospitals, monetary donations. That will happen in the next few days. But here, this is about solidarity. Many people will be speaking here today. Governor Lamont, Senators Richard Blumenthal and Chris Murphy, and West Hartford's Mayor Sherry Cantor. All of them will address the crowd with a message of hope and peace for Israel. And we will have much more on Eyewitness News at 5 and 6. You'll also hear from a rabbi who talks about what it is like for Connecticut families who have children in Israel who have now been called up as reservists to serve in the Israeli army. We're live in West Hartford. Susan Ralph, Channel 3 Eyewitness News.